Hi. In today's video, we're going to have a look at why do businesses grow and how do they grow. So first of all, let's look at some reasons for business growth. Why do owners want to expand their business? First of all, to reduce the risk of becoming a takeover target, to increase profits, to increase economies of scale, to increase market share, and last but not least, very often to increase the power and status of the owners, so somehow to satisfy their ego. Now, there are different ways how we can grow. We can either grow internally, which basically means that we're expanding organically. As it happens, we're opening new branches, we're opening new shops, opening new factories. And so one by one, we're kind of growing. Very often referred to as the organic growth. And the second type of business expansion is external growth. And that can happen by either merging or taking over another business, either from the same or a different industry. Now, there are different types of integration when we're talking about external growth. We can talk about horizontal integration, which basically means that if we're here, this is our original business, that we are integrating with our competitor. Because the horizontal integration refers to integrating with a firm in the same industry and at the same stage of production. There will be advantages to integrating with a competitor. First of all, you'll be achieving economies of scale. And second of all, you're going to get rid of your competitor and perhaps become a market leader if your competitor and you have enough market share. Then another possibility is to integrate with your customer, and this would be the forward vertical integration. So it would be integrating with a customer in the same industry. For this, the advantage would be that you would have sure demand for your products. So the customer, since that is going to be part of your company, is going to supply, for example, exclusively from you and maybe not your competitor anymore. And it might be easier for the two businesses to communicate together once they become one. Backward vertical integration is going to be similar, but here you're going to integrate with your supplier. So again, it's the same industry. You already know what you need from the supplier. So maybe that way you can affect the research and development that is going on, and the supplier will adapt to your needs, might supply exactly the supplies that you order, and they will be likely to be more flexible. And you might cooperate on the research and development together as your budgets combine. The last one is conglomerate integration, and here I specifically picked picture which is completely different and has a different color because I would like to represent conglomerate integration is a merger with or takeover of a business in a different industry. So in a way, you're merging or integrating with a completely unrelated business. So in a way, you're diversifying, and this is the most risky type of integration out of all of these because of this unknown factor that you are entering a business or an industry where you have no experience whatsoever. Apart from that, there are also some alternatives to growth. So what are joint ventures, strategic alliances, and franchising? I'm going to start with joint ventures and strategic alliances because they are very similar in the advantages and disadvantages. They just differ a little bit in the definition. So joint ventures and also strategic alliances, they happen because two businesses start to work closely together on a particular project. And why they do that is because they want to share their costs and risks. They want to share their different strengths and experience. And perhaps they want to exploit the markets more effectively than if they would work on their own. However, the disadvantage is that once they come together, since they have different organizational cultures, different managerial styles, there might be a lot of clashes. There might be some errors and mistakes, so the two businesses will blame each other. So it is very important to make sure that there is no conflict and that conflict is easily resolved. Because very often another risk is that if one business fails, the whole project will fail. And also the other way around. If the project fails, it might also affect each of the businesses that have come in to create the project. Now, some examples of joint ventures you could have a look at here on this slide. And now the important distinction between joint ventures and strategic alliances is that joint ventures actually come together, the two businesses or more come together to create a separate business division, separate business entity in order to do so. Whereas a strategic alliance, here you just come together and commit resources to achieve a set of goals that have been agreed on. But here, you don't need to create a separate entity. It's enough to just sign an agreement to specify the different rules, but you would still operate separately as two entities on that project. Very often you can create a strategic alliance with a variety of stakeholders. For example, a university. A business might cooperate with a university to train their staff, to create some specialist training courses. It might cooperate with a supplier to design and produce components that will be used specifically by the business. You might even cooperate with a competitor. So for example, when both businesses are trying to enter a new market that they will try to operate in, and when they do not want to risk so much by entering these new markets, they might enter it together to share the resources. And here are some examples of strategic alliances. So for example, Spotify being played in Uber cars and the Barnes & Noble's bookstore showing its books in Starbucks coffee places. Another concept is franchising, and this is a business that uses the name, logo, and trading systems of an existing successful business. Basically, imagine a successful business trying to sell its license, its franchise, to a small business and allowing the small business to operate under the original owner's name and the original owner's brand. A very famous franchise, as you know, is the McDonald's business. There are benefits both for the franchisor, the owner, original owner of the franchise, of the license, but also for the franchisee, which is the small business buying the franchise. The franchisor is using the resources of the small business, so they don't need to invest so much money of their own to actually operate the small branch, and they don't need to invest the enterprise and the time and the effort to support that small branch. But at the same time, the franchisee is benefiting from advice and mentorship of the franchisor. A lot of the tasks are going to be done by the franchisor, so for example, national advertising. However, the franchisee also will have a lot of limitations. So it will need to pay some fees for the franchise license, which can be very expensive. And it will need to either share profits or sales revenue with the franchisor each year. And the main disadvantage is that you'll have a lot of strict rules to follow by the franchisor, because the franchisor needs to make sure that all the branches are consistent and are not damaging the franchisor's brand and name. So each branch, each franchisee will need to use the same suppliers and supplies that the original business has set. It will need to use the same pricing rules. Maybe even the layout of the outlet will be specified. So in a way, the franchisee will have kind of like a guaranteed success, but at the same time, not so much control over their own business, not so much freedom. Here you're going to see some franchising concepts available in the Czech Republic. So have a look at these. Some of these maybe you haven't even realized are franchising businesses. Now, so far we've talked about big businesses and growth and evolution. And so in a way you might think perhaps small organizations aren't significant. Well, here my task is to actually explain to you that small organizations are very significant. They usually employ few people and have low turnover. However, small businesses create many, many jobs because there's a lot of small businesses, and it's that quantity that actually makes small businesses the main employer of people. Small businesses are great in that they can adapt to customers' needs quicker. Very often they create competition for the big firms. they have lower average costs, and they can supply specialist goods for the big firms. But if we have a look at the advantages, small businesses can be managed and controlled very easily. As I said, they can adapt to customer needs. They can offer personal service, and they can easily satisfy sort of like the human needs of each worker or even each client. So there is very easy communication with workers and customers. And when I mentioned the average costs may be low due to no diseconomies of scale and low overheads. So this is a reason for average costs being low in some cases. Large businesses, on the other hand, can afford to employ specialist professional managers, so they can easily benefit from specialization. They can get cost reductions, as we talked about, economies of scale. They'll benefit from those. They can set the prices if they are the market leaders, so then the other firms will have to follow. And obviously they're going to have better access to different sources of finance, better access to capital. They'll be able to diversify, since they'll operate in different markets and maybe have more products than just one. So the risks will spread. And in a way, also they'll have the capital available to afford to invest into research and development. So that way they can innovate and try to create new products or streamline processes for them to become more effective. If you turn the advantages into the disadvantages for the other type, then you'll have enough arguments to support any essays which you write, comparing small and large businesses.